Finding out your partner is cheating feels like a punch to the gut, but finding out they're not even trying to hide it, that's a whole different level of pain. For me, that discovery wasn't a sudden explosion, but a slow, creeping realization that the woman I promised to love forever was living a double life right under my nose. It started with small things, late nights at the office that became more frequent, business trips that seemed to pop up out of nowhere, the scent of a cologne that wasn't mine lingering on her clothes. I tried to ignore it, telling myself I was being paranoid. We'd been together for 10 years, married for 5. We had built a life, a home. People don't just throw that away, right? The breaking point came on a Tuesday. She told me she was having dinner with her colleagues. I was feeling a bit under the weather and decided to have an early night. Around midnight, I woke up thirsty. As I walked past our home office, I saw her laptop was still on. A notification from a hotel booking site was glowing on the screen. Curiosity got the better of me. I clicked on it, and there it was, a reservation for 2 at a boutique hotel downtown for that very night. Checked in and everything. The name on the reservation wasn't a colleague. It was a name I didn't recognize, but a quick social media search revealed everything. He was a guy from her gym. Their profiles were full of pictures together, cleverly cropped or taken at angles where you couldn't see they were together. But now, knowing what I knew, it was painfully obvious. They weren't just colleagues. They weren't just friends. My first instinct was to drive down to that hotel and confront them, to scream, to yell, to make a scene. But as I stood there in the dark, the screen of the laptop illuminating my face, a cold, hard clarity washed over me. She wasn't just cheating. She was being careless. She wasn't afraid of getting caught. She didn't respect me enough to even try to hide it properly. She felt invincible. And in that moment, I knew that a messy confrontation was exactly what she'd expect. It would give her the chance to play the victim, to twist the narrative. No. If she was going to burn our life down, I wasn't going to just hand her the matches. I was going to make sure she felt the heat, long and slow. So, I closed the laptop, went back to bed, and pretended to be asleep when she finally tiptoed in around 3 a.m. The next morning, she was humming, making coffee, acting like nothing had happened. She asked how I was feeling. I smiled and said, "Much better, honey." That was the day my plan began. I called it Operation Slow Burn. The first step was information. I became a digital ghost. I learned how to recover deleted messages, track locations, and access shared cloud accounts she'd long forgotten about. It was sickening, seeing the extent of their affair. Pet names, the promises, the plans for a future that didn't include me. They were laughing at me. Every "I love you" she sent him was a dagger in my back. But with every piece of evidence I gathered, my resolve hardened. I saved everything: screenshots, emails, receipts in a secure, encrypted folder. This wasn't just for me. It was my insurance policy. The second step was financial separation. We had a joint account for household expenses, but we also had our own savings. I started quietly moving my money. I opened a new bank account at a different bank. I consulted a lawyer not to file for divorce yet, but to understand exactly what my rights were. I needed to know how to protect the assets I had brought into the marriage and my share of what we had built together. The lawyer was brilliant. He advised me on every move, ensuring everything was legal and airtight. He told me to play the long game. Patience was my greatest weapon. For the next 6 months, I became the perfect husband. I brought her flowers. I suggested date nights. I listened intently when she talked about her day, knowing full well that a stressful meeting was actually a romantic lunch with him. It was the hardest acting job of my life. Every smile felt like a lie. Every touch made my skin crawl. But I had to maintain the facade. Her arrogance was my ally. Mute. She saw my renewed affection not as a strategy, but as a sign that I was clueless, that her double life was secure. She got even bolder. The third and final step was the execution. I chose the perfect date, our 6th wedding anniversary. She had, of course, forgotten. She'd already told me she had a work conference out of town that weekend. The conference was, unsurprisingly, a romantic getaway with her lover at a fancy coastal resort they'd been planning for months. I knew the hotel, knew the room number, I had the receipts. A week before the anniversary, I arranged a special family dinner. I invited her parents, my parents, our siblings, everyone. I told them I wanted to celebrate our anniversary a little early since she'd be away for work. She was thrilled. She saw it as another testament to her successful deception. She sat at that dinner table, smiling, accepting congratulations, while her phone buzzed with messages from the man she was about to run away with. The dinner was wonderful. We reminisced, we laughed. Towards the end of the meal, I stood up to make a toast. I raised my glass. To my wife, I began, my voice steady. To the last 6 years, they've certainly been educational. I saw a flicker of confusion in her eyes. I continued, I've learned so much about love, trust, and commitment. And I've also learned that some people have a very different definition of those words. Then, I turned to the large TV on the wall behind me. I put together a little slideshow for our anniversary, I announced cheerfully. Look back at our journey. I pressed a button on a remote. The first few pictures were from our wedding. Happy memories. Then, the screen changed. It was a screenshot of a text. A very explicit text from her to him. A gasp went through the room. Before she could react, the next slide appeared. It was a hotel receipt with her name and his, then another. A photo of them kissing, taken from a public social media post she thought I'd never see. The slideshow continued, a meticulous, undeniable timeline of her betrayal, set to our wedding song. Her face went from pale to ghostly white. Her parents were staring at her in disbelief, her father's face turning a deep shade of red. My family just looked at me with a mixture of shock and understanding. I let the last image a picture of them on a recent business trip, smiling arm-in-arm linger on the screen. Then I turned to her. I didn't shout, I didn't cry. I spoke in a calm, quiet voice that cut through the silence. The work conference this weekend? The resort looks lovely. I hope you two have a wonderful time, because when you get back you'll find your bags packed and divorce papers waiting on the kitchen counter. All of this, I said, gesturing to the screen, has already been sent to my lawyer. And to yours. I then looked at her parents. I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. I truly loved your daughter, but the person I married doesn't exist anymore. I placed my wedding ring on the table, turned around and walked out the door without looking back. I could hear shouting start behind me, but I just kept walking. The weight of the last 6 months lifted off my shoulders. It wasn't about a big, explosive revenge. It was about taking back control. It was about ensuring that when our world finally shattered, it shattered on my terms, not hers. She wanted to betray our marriage without fear. I made her face the consequences without an escape route. The best revenge isn't loud and messy. It's quiet, calculated, and absolute. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've been through something similar, know that you're not alone, and your strength is greater than your pain. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. See you next time.